Be Wealthy and Smart, episode 1074.
Step into a world of wealth and financial freedom without budgets, boredom, or bosses on Be Wealthy and Smart. And now, here's your host, Linda P. Jones.
Welcome to Be Wealthy and Smart. I'm Linda P. Jones, America's Wealth Mentor, empowering women and men worldwide to financial freedom. On today's show, we're going to talk about ugly retirement moves made in the pandemic. And this is from a Fidelity survey about what people did with their money during those 2 years that we were facing restrictions in the pandemic. And we had special abilities to access retirement accounts. Some people had their businesses shut down. Other people worked from home. It affected a lot of people very differently. But this survey is very interesting because it's going to lay out what most people said happened to their retirement savings during this period of time. And what the Fidelity Investments State of Retirement Planning study showed was that an alarming number of people either halted their retirement savings or cashed out their nest eggs altogether. So this is very interesting to know what people did, and also maybe I can help rectify some problems that have been created during that period of time, and we can turn that around. So what we first learn from this study is that more than 40% of the general population put their retirement planning on hold during the pandemic. And 55% of young investors age 18 to 35 did that. Nearly half of the younger people in the next generation said they don't even see a point in saving for their later years until things return to normal. Now, we had a lot of people that resigned from their jobs, and so of those who quit their jobs during the Great Resignation and had a 401k, 1 in 5, or 21%, cashed out of their accounts after they left their job. Of course, we want to avoid taking money out of our retirement account at all cost. Not only because there can be penalties, like a 10% penalty if you're under age 59 and a half, and there can be taxes due on money that you haven't paid taxes on yet, perhaps, but it's also because that money tends to never get replaced in your retirement account again. So once it's gone out the door, it usually doesn't ever come back. And that means that you've lost out on that compounding opportunity from a younger age, which is the most powerful tool that you have to start early and allow more years for compounding. That means less money has to be contributed over time, and it's the most effective way to create wealth. One of the biggest concerns mentioned in the survey was that 71% of Americans are worried about inflation's impact on their retirement planning, and almost a third don't know how to make sure that their retirement savings keep up. So when you're not sure if you can contribute as much as you have been, then what you invest in and how well you invest becomes more important. Because of that McT Formula that I talked about in my first book, You're Already a Wealth Heiress, that is money, compounding, and time are the three components of wealth building. So if you don't know if you're going to have money to contribute and you don't have extra years to contribute, that means your compounding, or the C in McT, has to do better for you, and you need to be invested in the stock market so that you can average a 10% average annual return over the long term. So let's look at some of the other responses in the survey. 79% said they're confident they'll be able to retire when and how they want, but 21% aren't so optimistic, and they now feel less confident about their retirement prospects than before the pandemic. So that's really normal that not everyone is going to feel confident, especially depending on how you were impacted during the pandemic. If your income was cut off, if you lost your job, these things, of course, are going to make you really wonder how you're going to fund your retirement when you don't even have income. So the best thing you can do is continue to keep a long-term perspective. And when you get reemployed or you have more income, that you can start contributing to your retirement plan to start up again as soon as possible. As I already mentioned, 71% of respondents said they're very worried about how inflation will affect their retirement preparedness. Now, inflation is something that we've been experiencing and seeing rents go up, housing prices increase, food prices increasing. We've seen so many areas disrupted by supply chains, and things are still not back to normal. Tomorrow, we're expecting the CPI number, or the Consumer Price Index number, to find out for last month, July, what the Consumer Price Index was and how that compares to June's 9.1% Consumer Price Index. Because oil prices have come down and many commodity prices have come down, it might be that the peak of inflation is behind us. So we will find that out tomorrow, and there will be a lot of discussion about that. 17% of Gen Xers, and that is the next generation to leave the workforce, said they are more confident than before the pandemic about their retirement prospects, compared with 38% of Gen Z and millennials. And of those who reported that the pandemic has interfered with their retirement plans, 29% of millennials and Gen Zers estimate that it will take a year or less to recover, but just 18% of Gen Xers said the same. 45% of millennials and Gen Zers said they see no point in saving for retirement until things return to normal. But when you look at history, investors who missed just 30 of the market's best performing days since 1980 would have reduced their portfolio's value by about 84%, compared with one that had remained fully invested. So staying invested during these volatile times, while it's not comfortable and not fun, it really is the best strategy, because over time, it's going to give you the fastest recovery. It's going to give you the best returns. 39% of Gen Zers and millennials said they plan to retire later than they had expected. For many, possibly because of their loss of focus on retirement planning, according to the survey. When looking at what caused some of the motivation to make these decisions, a large majority of younger survey participants said they were determined to focus on their passions and dreams, feeling empowered by leaving a toxic work environment, moving to a higher paying job, or into one more aligned with their values. This is what's known as the Great Resignation, as people really rethink what they want to do with their lives. But according to the survey, a fifth of those who have quit their job opted to cash out of their 401k, a decision that could have negative long-term consequences. 27% of Gen Xers estimated that they're 4 to 5 years away from getting back on track, or said they're completely off track. A concerning prospect, as the oldest among them are just 5 years away from the qualifying retirement age of 62. So the thing is, if you have a late start or you are needing to get back on track, that is when you want to continue any kind of contribution that you can make to your retirement plan, but you also want to really focus on investing as well as you can and getting those higher compounding rates of return. And that comes from, again, not parking the money in cash at low interest rates, but staying invested in the stock market. Although the volatility is no fun that we've been through, and markets have been severely impacted this year, just like in 2020, we had a strong rebound. I believe we're going to have a strong rebound through this as well. And we've already seen the S&P 500 rebound 14% off of the lows. So if you stayed invested, you would have already made that up in your portfolio. The best thing to do is to try to keep your eye on the long term and not get too concerned about short-term drops, even when the volatility is high. Over time, the stock market tends to iron these things out and sometimes can come back and have strong returns in subsequent years. In fact, in most subsequent years after a sharp correction, we see double-digit returns. And sometimes they've been quite a bit higher than an average 10% average annual return. So your best bet is usually to stay invested, stay in, focus on the long term. When you can make contributions, make them again, and just keep putting one foot in front of the other and keep going. Don't give up. Don't throw in the towel. Just keep going. And that compound interest will help to make up for a lot of other issues. It can make up for a lack of savings. It can make up for a lack of time, that you don't have a whole lot of time until retirement. If this is the condition that you find yourself in and you want to know how to get yourself out of this problem of worrying about retirement or starting too late with your retirement savings or not sure where to invest to maximize your compounding, check out my book, You're Already a Wealth Heiress, Now Think and Act Like One, 6 Practical Steps to Make It a Reality Now. In there, I address all of these issues and show you your millionaire action plan that's going to get your money working for you and help you make your first or your next million. That's all for today. Until next time, live the good life and be wealthy and smart.
Thank you for listening to Be Wealthy and Smart with Linda P. Jones. Share the wealth and tell your family and friends about the show. Check out our website, blog, and social media for more riches at www.bewealthyandsmart.com.